don't know if y'all know, or maybe y'all do, or maybe y'all don't, but I don't really care, it's how we own it all the time. So I'ma get my money, let's go.
The hypocrisy, this is an aristocracy. I'm Socrates, but my skin more chocolatey. What's up with who?
Hi everyone, welcome to the 3 Stoic quotes of the week with me, Sam, the Stoic teacher. If it's your first time here, I'm a philosophy and theology graduate from the University of Cambridge, and I now have the pleasure of teaching philosophy and religious studies in South London. This week's first quote came to my mind following the COVID-19 pandemic and the crisis that we're currently having here in the UK. We should absolutely be concerned about the physical manifestations of COVID-19, but we should also be thinking about some of the moral implications and the behaviours that are coming to light following the crisis. Marcus Aurelius says, corruption of the soul is a far graver disease than any comparable disturbance in the air around us. Marcus Aurelius was writing in a time when he was dealing with the plague. He lost children to the plague. And the point he was trying to make, when he's talking about the soul, I take this to mean a kind of conscience or moral centre within us, that we really should be more worried about our own ethical choices and what we choose to do. And in light of COVID-19, I think there are 4 areas that we should be reflecting on as a country in the United Kingdom and also as a group of citizens around the world. The first is the stockpiling and panic that we've seen here in the UK. You've seen supermarkets with empty shelves, people literally fighting over toilet paper. What these people struggle to realise is that this individualistic mindset is simply going to cause issues for all of us. Because in order for us to be protected from the virus, all of us need to be able to keep ourselves safe, to have toilet paper, to have hand sanitizer. And by stockpiling and buying more than they need, many of these people are causing issues for the most vulnerable, whose lives are at risk. We really should be reflecting on this. I'll talk more about this kind of panic in the second quote. The second area is the lack of empathy that's been observed. A number of people are taking the attitude that it's fine for me to go to large social gatherings and, not be particularly cautious because I'm young, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, I have no underlying health conditions, it's fine. Here's who it's not fine for. It's not fine for people with underlying health conditions, the elderly, who this is a fatal disease for. As the son of a woman in her 60s with diabetes and a heart condition, I don't appreciate people taking a blasé attitude, walking around thinking that this isn't serious. This is very serious indeed. Thirdly, the racism that we've seen in light of the COVID-19 crisis. There's been a spike in hate crimes against East Asians. A number of East Asian students at the University of Cambridge reported racist incidents ranging from having their hair pulled, to ketchup thrown in the street, to not being allowed to sit down at dinner next to someone because of their ethnicity. And it's not just in Cambridge. The mayor of New York has also reported a spike in hate crime against East Asians. And the fourth and final aspect would be organisations prioritising money over health. Both Wayne Rooney and Lewis Hamilton have been very critical of the F1 governing body and the Football Association for playing roulette with the lives of their players, deciding to go ahead with sporting events for economic gain, in their words, rather than closing those events in order to protect the lives of players. So if that were true, that would be very concerning indeed. And a number of people have criticised the British government, arguing also that they're playing roulette with the lives of the most vulnerable. The second quote is from Epictetus in the Discourses. Epictetus says, "Neither death nor pain is to be feared, but the fear of pain or death." And what Epictetus is talking about here is that often fear is very paralysing. And Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1,900 approximately years later, said the same thing in his inauguration speech. He said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Going on to say later that it's unjustified terror which paralyses needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Paralysing needed efforts. See, this is what I see when I look at the panic in light of the COVID-19 crisis. The thought of my mum's life being at risk because of this virus makes me very, very stressed. But if I were to go into panic mode, as many people have, fighting each other in the aisles of supermarkets, it wouldn't really benefit anyone. You know, they haven't thought through their decisions about stockpiling. Actually, that's not going to help everyone, is it? What we need is we need a calm head in order to assess the situation and think about what it is that we need to move forward, because fear in itself can be a very dangerous thing. Some people argue that we need fear. Without fear, we'll just sit at home and we won't take something seriously. I think what people are talking about when they're talking about fear in this sense is the concept of eustress, as devised by the psychologist Sale in 1974. He has a performance curve, which you can see on the screen now. You can see on there that there's a level of stress along the bottom and a bar, an axis for performance going up the top. And what you can see here is that there's a level of kind of calmness where there's no stress whatsoever. And then there's something called eustress in the middle, where you can see performance as highest, a kind of alertness, a kind of caution perhaps. And then moving into distress, which again you can see performance begin to go down. And this is the kind of perhaps the paralyzing fear that FDR talks about. So we want to be in that middle area, and that is not fear per se, that is a caution, you know, that the Stoics would advise in terms of taking action, taking the action that is needed. So for example, you know, we've told mum to stay indoors and we're getting everything delivered to her because we know she's at risk. Whereas if we were in a panic, we wouldn't be calm enough to make the decisions needed. So we need to bear that in mind before we go into a kind of panic zone, because we end up doing more harm than good. On to the third quote. Seneca says, "Wherever there is a human being, there is a chance for kindness." Now, this is one that we would do well to reflect on, considering what we've discussed. I think it's really time for us to show who we actually are. You know, there's been memes now being shared, you know, ones like the one that's on your screen now. You know, next time you want to judge refugees, remember we fought over toilet paper. I think it's safe to say that, you know, many of those people that have engaged in this kind of individualistic panic buying have not covered, you know, themselves and ourselves in glory. Some of the lovely things that are popping up in terms of acts of kindness, you know, there are coronavirus support groups popping up online. My mum's recently joined one of those. She was feeling upset this morning and actually cried, but she was fine after we sung some Bollywood songs together on the phone. And so, you know, we should all be thinking about what can we do to support someone who's in need at the moment. Zahid Iqbal from the Day-to-Day Convenience Store in Edinburgh has gone viral for, you know, spending his own money buying survival packs with hand sanitizer, toilet roll and other things to give out, which is a wonderful act of kindness, and I think we could all learn from his example. So you know, for this week, perhaps reflect on what we could do to help someone during this difficult time. Before I leave, I'd just like to say thank you to the 1,000 Facebook followers that have joined over the last couple of weeks. It means a lot to have you, and please keep an eye out for the Stoic Teacher podcast coming. I'll see you next time for some more ancient wisdom for modern times.